What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series May the 4th Be With You B1 Battle Droid. This figure was one of 3 different retailer exclusives that Hasbro put out this year in correlation with the May the 4th Be With You Day, or as we know it, Star Wars Day. Now, what bums me out about this figure is that it went up for order on May 4th. So as of the release of this review, this is going to be the day after I got it in the mail. And that kind of bums me out, especially with a holiday or a time-sensitive kind of figure. I would want them to show up before the holiday, or, you know, whatever you would call May the 4th Be With You Star Wars Day. It's a little bit of a bummer. So right out the gate, I'm a little frustrated because, I mean, as soon as I finish this review, this guy's just going to go into storage until the next May the 4th. We'll get into some of the gimmicks and intricacies of the May the 4th line, and this figure in particular, I have some specific thoughts on. I picked this figure up through Target's app, and the only reason that I picked it up through Target is because it is a Target exclusive here in the US for 2026. He comes in the standard style of packaging for the Black Series with a bit of a twist for May the 4th Be With You. So on the front of the box, you can see, as opposed to just the drab black color for the base of the box, we have a little bit of a star field. You can see a white speckling all over every side of the box. On the top, you can see the Black Series logo done in a nice gold color as opposed to the usual gray, and then we have a nice big plastic window showing you the figure, his accessory, and then you can see that little target practice piece behind him there. Over here in vertical text, we have the character name, and then down below the window, it is a little bit different in the way that it's cut as opposed to your regular Black Series figures. You have a gold banner for the May the 4th Be With You subline, I guess I'll call it, and then you have the May the 4th Be With You logo. Down below that, we have some other logos and legalese. On this side of the box, where we would usually have our mural art, we have the May the 4th Be With You logo, as well as the wraparound banner and the name of the character at the bottom. On this side of the box, here on the back, we have some of the stuff we've already seen, like the Black Series logo, character name, as well as a nice glam shot of the figure. This is something that I do prefer for the back of the box as opposed to the mural images. And then we have the target practice piece with something that says includes target practice in about 1 million different languages. Over here, speaking of 1 million languages, we also have a bio. This bio reads, "Embrace the lighter side of the Force with limited edition figures from the Black Series. May the 4th be with you." And then down below that, we have a fun little thing that says Roger, Roger. And then as opposed to the numbering for the subline here, it's just 05.04 for May 4th. And next to it, it says Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Down below that, we have all our legalese. Guys, please don't feed this action figure to your babies. On this side of the box, we have our May the 4th logo once again, our wraparound window, wraparound banner, and the Black Series logo. Then down at the bottom, we have even more legalese, and on the top, we have once again that May the 4th logo. So with that, that's going to wrap it up for the packaging on this figure. So let's get him opened and we'll check him out. Alright guys, here's our battle droid out of the box, but before we take a look at the figure, let's of course take a look at some of his accessories. So we're going to move the figure off to the side real quick because the first thing I want to take a look at here is this target practice piece. Now, I have some thoughts if you saw my review on the May the 4th Be With You Stormtrooper, and then I'm going to have a lot of the same thoughts on this one that I did with that. As for the target practice itself, I feel like the cardstock that they chose is a little flimsy. As you can see, it's pretty plain on the back. You got some printing on the front. I wish they would have gone with a thicker cardstock like they went with the Valentine's Day edition Ewok that they put out earlier this year. So the first thing I want to point out here, this is annoying to me, is that at the top left here, just like with the Stormtrooper, it says Empire Training. This is a battle droid. It's not an Imperial droid, so that's annoying that they didn't change this to be like Separatist training or CIS training. And this just goes to show, in my opinion, the general lack of effort that was put into this entire target practice piece. So aside from the fact that this says Empire Training in Arabesh, you have over here name, score, and distance. That's all completely fine. And then we have a silhouette of Anakin Skywalker from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And then of course the gimmick is that this only has blaster marks on the lightsaber blade, as the droids only seem to hit them where the blaster bolts can be deflected. Other than that, this is the typical style for a target that you would see if you go to a shooting range, or if you do kind of firearms drills, things like that in real life. My only other thing, and I said this in my Stormtrooper review, is that I wish this came with some sort of piece of cardstock or plastic to make a kickstand to hold this up, because if you saw when I brought it up here, it was propped up against my backdrop here, and the reason it was because this doesn't stand up on its own. I get that in an actual shooting range that this would actually be hung by a clip or stapled to a piece of particle board or something, but it's just, if that's not the case, I think that this should be able to be displayed without being up against my wall or against the side of my shelf. So that's another piece of this that I just feel like was a little bit low effort. I think the idea, the gimmick of it was really fun, but in execution, I just feel like this kind of falls flat, just like this target does. All right, target practice aside, let's take a look at the one accessory that the battle droid can actually hold, that being an E5 blaster rifle. This is the standard blaster that we see most battle droids use throughout all of Star Wars here. You can see that we've seen this one a million times in the Black Series at this point. It's in a nice gunmetal gray sculpt. I don't see any real paint apps or anything here. It's pretty typical for what we get with a Black Series E5 blaster. It's got some really nice sculpted detail and no paint or weathering applied to it. And for this blaster, that's completely fine. All right, so let's get into the B1 battle droid here. So this is essentially what you would think is a standard B1 battle droid. However, underneath the soft goods t-shirt, there's a surprise, and I have some thoughts on that. But let's get into the t-shirt first, since this is like the other part of the gimmick of this May the 4th subline. So each of these figures in the May the 4th subline this year has a soft goods t-shirt with some printing on the front here. So you can see that the shirt is actually only done in yellow on the outside. On the inside, it's actually white. So I don't know if they dyed this or if they printed the entire thing. I think that that's probably the way to go going forward, so you don't get any of that dye transfer onto the plastic of the figure, which has happened with Black Series soft goods in the past. On the front here, you can see it's very much a graphic tee that says Roger, Roger Robotics, with a nice little fun logo there with a B1 head in the center. And I can't tell if those are Imperial cogs or if those are supposed to be Separatist cogs on either side there. It doesn't matter, it's too small to see anyway. And then on the back, we have a May the 4th Be With You logo that's printed on the back of the shirt. And I think that actually is printed really nice. I can read all the text very clearly. I think they did a good job centering it as well. Honestly, overall, this was some pretty good execution. And if this was a way for them to like test out this new technology, this was definitely the way to go about it. I think the stitching of the shirt is pretty good as well, especially for the specific proportions of a B1 battle droid with how spindly they are. I think they did a pretty good job with this piece. I know that a lot of people are not fans of the graphic tees for these guys, but I mean, if you've met a Star Wars fan in your life, I know I myself, I've been wearing fun, silly graphic tees for Star Wars my entire life. So I really think that this is a little bit more in tune with the Star Wars fandom than people realize. I think this part of the gimmick is actually really fun and executed very well. So there is a surprise underneath the t-shirt here. So the best way to probably remove this is just to lift the droid's head up, lift his arms up with it. You should be able to slide this soft goods off pretty easily. I will say it might be a little bit difficult to get it up and over the back of the head, but once you get it kind of up and over the shoulders, it's pretty easy to get that off. And you can see the surprise hiding underneath. We've got some paint apps here, and then I'll get into this because, believe it or not, there's a little bit of controversy going on with this figure as far as the execution of these paint apps. So I'm gonna finish getting this off. As you can see, it's a little bit difficult to do, but eventually you can get the shirt off, and it is inside out, but it's very easy to get that back into the right side out. Is that how you'd say that? Right side out way there. So set that off to the side, and then we have, wow, all of a sudden it's not just any old battle droid. This is supposed to be the security battle droid first seen in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So this, again, on paper, was very clever for the Hasbro Star Wars team because they kind of got to use a dual purpose for this figure. It being a figure that we have all the sculpting for already, they didn't have to put any budget into new tooling. Same can be said for the soft goods and the cardstock pieces. However, while I appreciate the idea that this is a new character essentially for the Black Series, it falls a bit flat because, unfortunately, unfortunately, it is missing some paint apps that are accurate to the security battle droid. So I did see some people complaining that he doesn't include the backpack, and in the first scene that we see these guys in the Phantom Menace movie, these guys do not have backpacks at all. No antennas, no backpacks. You can go back, watch the film. So that I'm fine with them omitting. The problem is that he should have some additional maroon paint apps here on the shoulders, I guess I would call it the shoulder plating here, as well as on the back of the battle droid head. Because it's missing that, that's again, it's just one of those, it makes me feel like it was low effort, and it sucks to say that because it was very creative to make this a dual purpose release. Like, oh hey, if you don't want to buy it because it's a May the 4th battle droid, get it because it is underneath that soft goods t-shirt an in-universe repaint of the existing battle droid sculpt. I suppose you could still put it on the shelf and say, yeah, it's a security battle droid. It's just a couple paint hits on the back of the head and the shoulders. It's not the biggest deal in the world. They got the majority of the paint apps on the figure correctly, but I will say it's still just a little bit frustrating for me. If you're gonna go the extra mile and give us those extra paint apps, go all the way. Aside from that though, he is just the standard battle droid sculpt for the Black Series. So you can see you've got the battle droid head up here with the black painted on for the photoreceptors and just the standard detail that we're used to with a little bit of extra movement, a couple separate pieces for the head. We'll get into that when we cover the articulation. You can see that those nice maroon paint apps are present on the top where the shoulders and the top of the chest would be in the human anatomy, and that does transfer over to the back of the figure as well. And then of course we have that little hit of maroon paint on the front of the chest, and then we have some nice maroon paint on the sides of the torso as well. They did also include some silver paint hits on the upper arms here, which I wasn't expecting. I feel like we haven't seen that with recent battle droids, as well as some silver here at these little pieces that flank either side of the abdomen. So that's a little bit more than they usually do, and I also believe I can see a little bit of weathering on this droid. It looks like a bit of a wash was applied, and it looks like it was applied to the right forearm mainly. You can see it kind of on different pieces of the right forearm there. Very light brown wash. You can see it kind of sits in nicely on the right thigh as well as that right hip there. And you can also see it on the left knee there too, as well as the left lower leg. So they did apply a little bit of a wash. It's not that dot matrix weathering that they sometimes do. And honestly, if it wasn't for the missing paint apps on the back of the head and the shoulders, I would be ecstatic about the level of detail on this figure and just how much of a dual purpose this figure can serve. Again, for you guys, this might not be the biggest deal and it might still be worth a pickup to you, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out the inaccuracies on the figure. But aside from that though, it is just your standard B1 battle droid. We've had this guy come out several times throughout the lifetime of the Black Series line, so honestly, in my opinion, there's not much else to note. Let's, however, cover articulation real quick. So we do have a ball joint at the top of the neck here. You can see you can get some decent range out of that. There's also a hinge on the back of the head here. You can see you can get that to extend almost straight out from the back of the head, and that is so that we can actually get this guy folded up like you see them do in the Battle of Naboo at the end of the Phantom Menace, and we do see it several times throughout the rest of Star Wars as well. You can get this guy to look down just a little bit because technically this is like the forward position here, so you can make him look down, you can make him look up, you can get some tilt out of that, which is good, as well as some right and some left as well. We do have a hinge at the base of the neck, and you can see you can get that to go down about 90 degrees, get it to go back more than 90 degrees, which is great. And you can also get some swivel out of that because there is another piece that extends up, and again, this is to help you get that folded up look for the battle droid. At the shoulders here, we have a hinge and swivel, so these little discs on the inside of the shoulders, those do move separately so that you can actually get a little bit more range out of that if you move them forward or back. You can get about 45 degrees at the hinge for the shoulders there, which is pretty typical for Black Series battle droids, and of course the 360 degree swivel. We do have a bicep swivel built in for the battle droid too, as well as a hinge which gets you well past that 90 degree mark forward. It does also hyperextend backward about the same there. And then you can see we also have a swivel both at the base of the forearm and at the wrist as well. There's a hinge at the wrist, and both wrists are going to have a horizontal hinge, and that hinge can go in and out about 90 degrees. in each direction there. As for the torso, we have a ball joint that's built in, separating the torso from the abdomen, and then what's really cool is there's actually these little ball joints on either end of these pieces that flank the abdomen piece here, so that when you're moving it around, and especially twisting the torso side to side, you can get some really nice dynamic motion out of that figure, which is accurate again to what we see in the media. You can get some decent crunch out of that. He doesn't really lean back at all. There isn't much tilt, however, you do have that nice back and forth motion. At the hips, I believe it's a ball joint, but it really only acts as a swivel, so you can get those legs to really go forward and back, which is great, but like I said, no real in and out motion. At the knees, we do have a hinge, so you can actually get those legs to go all the way up and get nice and folded. They actually cut the back of the lower leg out in the sculpt so that you can get this guy into a really nice crunched up position for that folded up look. And then of course at the ankles, at the base of the lower leg, we do have a swivel, and then we also have a hinge, which gets you some really nice forward, as well as some really impressive back too. So overall, it's pretty good articulation all said and done for how spindly this character is. It is a pretty decent articulation system, especially for the price point of the Black Series. They can be a little finicky, but once you get them stood up, they usually do a pretty good job of staying standing on your shelves. Let's get this guy posed up a couple ways. So of course, the first thing I want to do is show you how this guy looks folded up. So it's pretty simple to do. You just bring the legs up as close as you can. You're going to bring those hinges on the ankles forward a bit, and then you're going to crunch the abs. You're going to bring that neck up, bring that head down, and then you just kind of bring the arms in like a hugging position. And there we go. Got our battle droid all folded up, and he's ready to be put to work, ready to be activated. Of course, the E5 blaster was made specifically for the battle droid, so putting that in the right hand, it fits in there very nicely. You can see the fingers fit in the trigger guard well, and it does pass the shake test. And here is our B1 battle droid in a nice pose, maybe telling some intruders to halt and to be identified. And here's a nice two-handed blaster holding pose for our battle droid here. These guys do a pretty good job of holding the blaster in two hands. You've got a little bit of a lower stance. He's actively engaging some enemies. And then finally here, we have our battle droid in a one-legged running pose. These guys have a surprisingly good center of gravity once you can get those spindly legs balanced, and I really like the way that this looks. I'm interested to see how it's going to be getting the shirt back on, because it was a little bit of a project to get it off the figure, and it might be a little difficult specifically getting the arms in the sleeves, especially like when you pull the shirt off, like the sleeves are now inside out. So it can be a little bit difficult. Never did I think I'd be dressing my Black Series figures in the big 2026, but here we are. And once you get those hands poked through and get the head into the base of the shirt and through the top where the neck hole is, it seems like you should be able to just bring it all the way down here. Yeah, this is about how I looked when I was a kid, trying to get a t-shirt on when I was about 6 years old. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this review. This is a figure that, first of all, I wish came out before May 4th. I would have loved to have had this on display for Star Wars Day, but unfortunately Target didn't put it up for sale until May 4th. I have the same complaints about the Target practice that I did with the Stormtrooper release, so I'm not going to harp on that too much. My one other thing that I wanted to mention again was I wish they would have maybe mirrored or spun around some of those carbon scoring marks, as they're just identical, copy and pasted all the way down the lightsaber blade. It just, again, the whole thing just feels very low effort to me. As for the battle droid, I actually like the figure, and I really like the graphic tee. I think that's a fun novelty for these releases. However, again, if you're going to do the paint apps to make this guy a different look, go all the way. Don't go halfway. Don't miss out on some of the paint apps. Make sure, if you're going to choose to do that, to get those details right, because Star Wars fans are going to notice that. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, it gives you access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comment section, you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, just like the Patreon members do, and you get to check out all my reviews early here on YouTube. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could always head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking all whole units, fire at will. 1, 2, Pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. Gotta hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?